Can you see me? I don't know if
I cannot see you.
I tape on my figure out start video.
There it is.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing pretty good. My usual, my wife and I, we like to like just get together every morning and try to get close to God, and we end up praying. So we started doing that this past year. It's been good.
Nice. That's cool. Is it kind of like a free flowing thing, or like do you follow some sort of prayer,
I mean,
like
we,
schedule?
we get up, make coffee, we sit down in our chairs next to the fireplace. Fireplace is not on, and then the point would be that don't just go to your phone and
Yeah.
start consuming content, and then I think all it takes is at least one of us to really, um, just trying to get back connected to God and
Hmm.
do it out loud. Um, Talk about what's weighing on you. Um, so it's a bit like I think it's a bit like confessing, and then Kim says it's uh, just trying to be vulnerable. So it
Heard that.
it's
That's
pretty good.
wonderful.
You're a little choppy,
Oh, am I? Oh no.
but you might be okay. The audio broke up just a little bit.
See if it gets better as I go outside. I'm
I think
gonna do a walk and talk today.
Zoom's doing pretty good. It's the audio is clear, the video is a little choppy, so Zoom's
Gotcha.
prioritizing the feeds.
Yeah, let me know if it gets crappy, and we can I'll come back towards the house and just sit outside or something.
Yeah, we're good right now.
This is my this is my place of residency. Got some chickens.
Cool.
Little story. We don't have a lot of time, but a little quick story. This chicken, my dad found this that little one, or my my combari, which is my godfather, found this chicken near his shop, just like walking in the street, and my dad went to go grab it, and now we have it, and it was like right around uh the lunar eclipse, I think, or
Lydian is not really a collection of notes. It's not even really a collection of intervals. I mean, the more you try and define it, the more amorphous it becomes, because really it's just an emotional quality.
I don't know, but it's really pretty. Yes,
Cool.
yes. Oh, I just got a comment on YouTube.
Found a chicken.
Yeah, it's like, huh. All right. So today we convene because you asked me a question, which is a big question, in my opinion. And but I appreciate you asking me, because we kind of had a like difficult. I feel like we were speaking past each other, to some extent.
And watching their attention and their concentration. Like,
Yeah.
and I wasn't even aware of that, but I came across it, basically the next day after I had
Yeah.
said something about sell a God device, and it's just,
Wow, that's really interesting. Like I said in the text before this call, it's like, it's so easy to box people in, or like, what did I say? Like, to jump to conclusions or make judgments about
Yeah.
people.
You said
And
so easy to box people in, over straw man, or become polarized.
yeah, like in the language I would tend to use, it would be, that I'm the Yaldabaoth saying, the blind lion saying, oh, the snake technology, all bad, nothing good about it. And but that's just like a polarizing, there's probably some higher perspective that we're just not capable of seeing or something, but I don't know. I feel like we did all right, but generally, I appreciate you asking because I do feel like there was some, I don't know, like just in the air still that we kind of hadn't worked out. I don't know. For me, I often feel like sometimes it's just that I get worried about that possibility, the fact that I might box you in or something. And then I get so worried about it that I like worry it into being or something. But
I feel like I've come up
hopefully
with some
not.
pretty good arguments. Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 arguments that, if you treat them seriously, it makes the question even more challenging, I think.
Hmm. Heard
But
that. Yeah, I guess we should say so originally, and it was also weird
what is the
because
question?
yeah, it was also that when uh is my camera still reversed? No, you're good.
Yeah.
When there's also like kind of crazy timing because you left a comment on one of my videos, and I had made that video because um I was kind of like in an annoying uh very convoluted textual situation with somebody, and I used the word embodiment in that conversation, and then I posted that video to like just in case they would see it type of thing, be like, this is what I really mean.
Yeah.
And then you commented, and I was like, oh, now I have to like defend the view or some in a way, and it just kind of devolved into textual, and then we ended up doing a call, which is ultimately awesome because it's wonderful to be acquaintances, virtual friendships with you. And yeah, so the point that we ended up talking about, because once you start talking with me, you end up finding out that I'm very interested in I guess you could say mind reading, or like you know human interaction, like how we might upgrade this, I suppose you could say. And in around the same time, whether synchronously or kind of by osmosis or something, you were struck by, I think it was kind of like a synchronistic type of thing too, is that you were struck by this idea of the seal of God device, which is like a, would you like to explain it? And you kind of, and I feel like I gave off the impression, or you got the impression, or it is the case that I don't really like that idea. But obviously it pulls on the very, very, we're coming from a similar motivation, I think. And but yeah, so I feel like you should probably articulate this just in case, at least, even if I might have it wrong.
Yeah, well,
Also, can you still hear me all right?
I can hear you good.
Nice.
The so the thing about Seal of God device is it's a clever name to try and connect an idea with what you can find in the
Yeah.
Christian Bible.
Section where 144,000 of servants of God are sealed before God pours out the judgments of the trumpets on the. It says this: do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. And then, of course, there's 12,000 from 12 tribes. And then verse 9, after this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes and were holding palm branches in their hands. Now, what is interesting is that this section contains what I call the device, I hear, I see. We saw this in Revelation chapter 5, where John hears the 140, the people of God in terms of old covenant language of the picture, 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe. But what does he see? He sees a great multitude that no one can count from every tribe, language, and tongue. And of course, this is the real people of God, mostly Gentiles, little bit of Jew. So you have I hear, I see.
St. Paul links the Old Covenant with hearing. In the Old Covenant, they hear the book, but now we see the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. Or St. John in the Gospel of John. This is a major theme. I encourage people to go through the Gospel of John.
So if this has been helpful, check out more of Jeff's thoughts on YouTube.
But the goal of the device is to be able to essentially know a person, their spirit, their soul, such that there's no deception. There's no secrets, and you know that their authentic self, and that's the goal behind the device. And you could call it by different names.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a
Yeah.
good goal. You know, I mean, ultimately, I think the goal, and I even think like the technical kind of approach is correct in a sense. You know, like I think, but yeah, I do kind of the idea of like some sort of electronic device definitely does weird me out. But I think that's kind of what we're hoping to talk about today, I suppose. And but yeah, I like so it's maybe do you want to say something else about like what it would actually how it would work or like something like that? Because I feel like you've kind of thought about it,
Yeah.
a little bit more of a
Well, I
yeah.
kind of want to keep it abstract because what I've come to realize is that that's what we're already trying to do. Um, when you look at sources of information, whether it's the newspaper or the news channel or the magazines, if there's an election and they go and do a debate, um, politics, hiring, there's all these. We're trying to figure out who a person is and if they're a fit, if and should they be
Mhm.
hired, fired, promoted, demoted, are they trustworthy ultimately?
Yeah.
And so we've already have technologies and process. I can include process with that word technology. We already have ways of doing this, and it's just not very good.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't want to. I will mention I do believe that this conversation and many conversations are being recorded into hard drives, stored and saved, whether
I
it's
agree.
conversations on telephones, the internet, and there are encryption technologies that may be protecting us now, but very quickly those will be broken.
Hmm.
And what's there will be the opportunity to go look at all of your conversations you've ever had using technology, and you would be able to look at those and get a glimpse at it would give you a peek at who this person has been, who they were becoming, who they might be now, and what they might become. So,
Yeah.
this idea of a seal of God device, it could take many forms, and there's probably one that it will take that includes, some type of technology looking at the conversations that have been happening for decades.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I think that's the case
I would
personally.
I would throw it out there though. I hope it would be someone that has the character of Jesus looking at this uh,
Yeah.
technology for the good of people and with forgiveness and mercy. That's
Yeah.
what I would hope for.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't been walking though. Yes. I just have to remark because it's kind of overwhelming me. I haven't been out here in a while. Um, I've been a bit of a inside hermit recently, and
Mhm.
and they did some clearing behind my house, and it's
Yeah.
also it's kind of horrid to see this, but also it's just wonderful to be out in nature again. It's kind of like I don't know, it's striking me. The vibe is hitting. Um, but speaking of, yeah, like maybe that's kind of one first way that I could present my kind of worries about something like this.
Yeah.
Um, is through that idea that of like who would be in control of it, because I think um like right now, like we see with lots of technologies, like there's kind of an arms race, like to who would get it first, and it's not. And that's the thing about like one thing I'm kind of hoping to talk about a bit is like this idea that we have spiritual faculties like that, or like that we can develop spiritual faculties like that that can kind of give us a more penetrating insight into the other person, and also allow us to speak more deeply from who we are, or something like that. Um, and the thing about that is that like that you can only have those abilities, let's say, or faculties, like if one is able to they're kind of like given by God almost. So, like you have to, um, it's not like it's not like a pay to win type of thing. It's like, yeah,
Can I just on that note,
sure.
the I think that your capacity to know what's inside of me will depend on what you have experienced.
Hmm.
Your ability to empathize with me will depend on your experiences. So there may be experiences that I've had or that I'm having that you don't know about, and you might be having experiences that I don't know about, right?
Hmm.
And maybe it's not even a might. It's like it's almost guaranteed you are. And
Yeah.
so there's a blindness we have towards each other. I really like the idea of tasting a banana. It's like you've
Hmm.
tasted some fruit that I've never tasted, and I've tasted some fruit that you've never tasted, and it's maybe yeah, and maybe there's this taste of knowing God, and there's that taste can change as you get to know God better, and it's like
Hmm.
and we don't even know, like, man, how well do I know God compared to others, and so we look at each other, and it's like it's a bit of a mystery, and
Hmm.
yeah, so that's what I would
Yeah.
echo. It's
No,
like
yeah, I think that's a really great point. I think, um, I don't know if I have this exactly right, but I kind of think that that's another reason why I might be worried about something like that, because I think that the way that we know the reality of each other is by participating. Like I can only know what you're going through if I go through it with you. And if you just say this is what I'm going through, that's not like there's deeper, that's kind of like a surface communication. Like whereas um and that's what, like, if the kind of way that you had framed it would be that there would be like lights or something. I imagine like you would elaborate this idea more, but like that to really know someone deeply, um, is to like go there with them, and like uh, and generally, I mean, this is kind of a change topic, but generally, I feel like digital technologies kind of are always putting layers between us, but at the same time, it is of course that we wouldn't be having this
I
conversation
think I think
anyway.
you're
You
I think what you might be hitting on is like, yeah, so you can oversimplify someone's state of being to for example, the color of a light.
For Leibniz, the yin and the yang was very similar to the ones and zeros of the binary system that he was developing.
And you know
Yeah,
that deep down, you know that that's just not adequate. That's like you're losing so much. And so
yeah,
what you really would want is for me to be able to put on some device, and you would put on a device, and all of a sudden you would experience what I'm experiencing, or I would experience what you're experiencing. And then that way, without losing any of the experience,
yeah.
because
That would be better in my opinion.
right.
However, that still freaks me out a bit because
Ones and zeros.
um, this is kind of um, the thing with like technologies in general is that they're kind of like supplements, like garments, such that they like it's like clothing, like or I don't know if that's the best example, but it increases your power, but you're like outsourcing to the technology. So like, I don't know, this might be too far out, but like I think the most extreme example would be something like if we put all our chips in the digital basket, let's say, like relying on smartphones and stuff like this, and then a solar flare comes, then we're kind of like screwed because we're so reliant on these technologies, whereas I think if we uh develop them more like naturally or something. And not to say that, technological developments aren't natural expressions of humanity, but, like if, I don't know, that's kind of one way of phrasing it, but even just in general, like to always outsource, like, I don't know, we become reliant on the machine, and then that goes back to like who's controlling the machine, and that's, um, I think it's crucial that you've made it point that like if this were to be a device, that it would ideally just be for people who would be wanting to wear it, or that, and I've even heard you make the case that like you wouldn't even have to make the device just because like the possibility. I thought that was really funny. It's like the panopticon kind of, and but there's an interesting redeeming quality to the panopticon, and this kind of gets into, I guess, the privacy topic of like where like I don't know. Maybe I should let you respond before I kind of go into that, or I don't even know what I want to say yet. So
Yeah. I will say that like I've kind of been aware of this for like I don't know, over 10 years. Like so
like the fact that everything's recorded type of thing, or
yeah, and so I've kind of lived my life as if I'm being watched, hoping
yeah,
that I'm
me
being
too.
watched by angels too, that there are
Yeah.
good guys out there watching me, and then there has been a real experience. Even though I've been kind of like a person of the law, like I just try to go and act like I'm a good person. But in the last year, I've actually experienced things on the inside that you wouldn't necessarily notice if you were just paying attention to my words. Um, it would be hard to notice, and you couldn't actually know the experience like we were talking about before. Is like you yeah, you wouldn't know what like the feeling of the unconditional love towards someone you disliked completely previously, and having like a switch flipped, and then all of a sudden you have tears pouring out of your eyes for your enemy, like unconditional
Yeah.
love for your enemy. Like that's such a strange experience to actually experience, that it's like I
Yeah.
wish I could have somehow, I wish I could give that to people. The
Yeah.
feeling of unconditional love, forgiveness, mercy. I
Mm.
actually think this might be the good news. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like this this is the kingdom of heaven. This is the love of God. This is the heart of God. Like, and I wish I could just somehow just give it to people.
Yeah. Well, I actually think it does come through your words and your expressions, such that like you can, there are times where when you kind of submit to that experience in a way, but that's not necessarily the right word. It's like when you allow yourself to participate in it, or like, I don't know. I think there's like a way where we kind of hide our true. Oh, am I choppy?
Well, it's actually, I think
Can
there's
you
just
hear
a
me?
lag. Yeah, I can hear you, but I think there's a lag.
Okay, got you. Maybe I'll walk a bit more. Um, I don't know. I think that it can like, there are times where those things can come through your expression, and I also think like you said, it is kind of hard to see into your true being, you know, but I think that's maybe a good thing insofar as like if everybody could just see your deepest darkest secrets or something, that maybe wouldn't be, um that would just be chaotic or something, such that only the people who like can develop. I imagine that like spiritual faculties, you have to develop virtue for them to like arise, like, or but I don't really, um I don't know, because it reminds me of the people who do the remote viewing, and that was like a CIA project, and they were like doing it with this kind of fervorous intensity, like not really it didn't seem like a spiritual endeavor. I mean, like a virtuous endeavor.
So we figured, yes, someday there will be a nasal spray, probably with RNAi or some other faster acting genetic edit that will make you super psychic for a couple of weeks before it wears off. People will sometimes say I'm involved in the paranormal.
I suppose I don't really know what was going on, but it's like, I don't know. I think that I think that we can get better at both communicating and seeing, like, um, yeah, I feel like I might have forgotten like what your main point was there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the question, that I had posed is, why do you dislike mind reading instruments? That was kind of the
Yes.
phrasing of my
Yes.
question. And I think it's just an interesting question because I think it's a interesting question for people to ask themselves. If people don't like the idea of having others know them completely,
I don't think that's necessarily what that's not why I dislike it.
okay.
Like, yeah, the main, the reason,
Are
the
you
main thing
worried it's
would,
just not going to work well? That it's
that's
just
like,
won't.
yeah, the main two things is like one that I'm skeptical about, like the possibility of it actually being, better than what's already available to us,
Right.
um, in some sense. And then also like this idea that like we're already kind of like that there's an evolutionary trajectory like in the human body already towards that type of communion. Um, and that like this kind of to turn away from the body and to move more towards digital technologies is kind of like yeah, different.
So the most intimate relationship I have is with my wife, and we still don't understand each other.
Whoa.
So it's like the amount of communion, the quality of the communion you can have between two people. What I'm finding is like it's it there is a limit. There's barrier.
Yeah.
I mean, and man, I want I want the kind of communion. Um, I mean, there's a kind of communion when you feel God flowing through you.
Yeah.
It's like I want to be able to do that more, and I want more people to be able to do it.
Yeah. And there's a certain kind of urgency as well, because like I think a lot of that is to do with our time period, like such that like we live in just such a spiritually alienated time, you know? And but I think like the solution is gonna be more like a way to like raise our kids differently or something, such that like these faculties are more available to them. And um, you know what I mean? Like, because but yeah, I understand like it's like what CHE guy said. I always forget his name.
Jason Delport.
Jason, yeah. Yeah, he said that like it's definitely understandable to like, look for these kind of instruments to fix these sorts of problems, because like we do live in a time that kind of calls for something like that. So that's the thing that's really interesting about this is that I think, like it's a hair's, I don't know, they're like, I think you're a really great and well motivated person, like I have nothing against you at all, but it's just kind of the idea, like the particular implementation of it or something is kind of freaking me just for the reasons that I described. I lost my paper, but
You lost your paper?
yeah, I'm littering. No.
You're with your bullet points?
Yeah.
So one interesting thing is I've seen a very popular clip. What was it? Maybe you made a video with Joe Rogan. Yeah, you made a video with Joe Rogan. I said,
Yeah.
Can't wait for mind reading. Bring it on. Bring it on.
No,
Expose
no,
everyone.
no.
Let's
Mind
go.
reading.
Joe, we cannot have mind reading.
Mind reading is bad. A little ignorance is bliss. You need a little bit of
Yeah, but that's
fakeness.
not going to happen, man. I'm telling you, that's the bottleneck. The
That's the
bottleneck
end.
is
End of society.
You'll need some
It'll be-
catching up.
Airy.
I'm sorry,
I've
yeah.
never heard it better.
And I said in the comment section, I was like, you were I forget what I said, but I said you're begging me to watch this basically. It's
Yeah, he said yes, or baiting or something like that. Yeah. Wasn't on purpose. It's actually because I'm passionate about this kind of thought line of thinking. But
what's interesting is Joe Rogan's basically like, come on, bitch, get inside this
Yeah.
head. And I feel the same way. I feel like there are people
Yeah.
like get in this thing and look around. I beg you, because
Yeah.
I know what's going on up here. And not only that, but I can see what's going on in all these other minds. And
Mhm.
and people just don't even have a clue what's possible in these minds, you know. And
Yeah.
we're like, people are just chained and trapped and blind and
Mhm.
oh, man,
It's true.
it would be nice to be able. The idea there is like just get a glimpse. I want you to get a glimpse at what's possible for a human to experience.
Yeah.
Because we're born. We're born. You had said, "How do we raise children?" It's like, man, it's. I have children. It's a. I'm trying, and it's not easy.
I imagine you're a great parent, to be honest, Gavin. I think like I envision you as a great dad.
Well, I have a wife trying to encourage me as well, and she's amazing. It's nice having help.
Yeah.
I was raised by a single father. That's part of the reason I say that. I know what it's like for a single parent too. So
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I do think that yeah, I really resonate with that sentiment, of like that we're so close to each other yet so far away and stuff like that. And like,
I beg you, because
yeah.
I know what's going on up here.
But it reminds me of like the sermons that are out there. Like, I don't listen to a lot of sermons, but like, or the beautiful artworks. And I think there are ways to like really manifest that love into the world. And I think and I've seen you kind of getting better at that over time, as hopefully I have as well. And in terms of like having that resonance in your voice that speaks of the presence of God, it's like that's what I think it's all about, man. And yeah, and I think it's interesting that there are ways where digital technologies can help us in that respect. Kind of giving up on my paper. I don't know where it went. Maybe I'll come back and look for it some other time. But
It's biodegradable.
yeah,
Some
it's
stranger will walk through and find this paper with
yeah,
some
be like,
strange
what the
bullet
hell?
points. What is this?
Yeah. I was gonna say it's interesting how there are like ways where I could see that digital technologies being very good. Like we're doing this right now. It's kind of, it would be insane of me to say that, to act like I'm totally against them because I'm
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if
but
imagine you're 300 years in the past and there's some people watching you do what you're doing right now.
yeah, I'm about to fall on my ass trying to get through these logs.
You're like, there's this guy walking through the woods. He's got these strange
Oh
things
yeah, I
from
see
his
something. Yeah,
ears, and he's talking into the air.
yeah,
It's like he's it
it
seems
would be
like
pretty
there's time
wild.
it
Some
sounds like
people,
he's having a conversation with nobody.
yeah, some people have that idea that aliens are like future humans, and that like people. That reminds me of that I tend to stay away from stuff like that generally, but
There's a lot of stories out there that are fun, and you could maybe see how they could be real.
yeah, 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 and it reminds me one of the conversations we did, this idea of it was reminding me of how Terrence McKenna had this idea of his idea of mind reading was something along the lines of you would have a website, and on the website would be all of the things that you're interested in, like, or learning about, and like that you've made or stuff like that, and that you would just send somebody to your website and be like, welcome to my mind, and I think that's to a large extent true. Again, there's kind of that danger of perhaps danger of like outsourcing, but I think it's a wonderful thing that like, I can point someone towards my YouTube channel and be like, this is the contents of at least one part of my brain for, the past bunch of years,
Right?
you know?
But it's so much information
Yeah.
that 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 it can't be like digested. It can't be consumed and digested. It's
Yeah.
all that, but man, if yeah, if I could know exactly, the experiences you're having at any given moment right now, or it's
Mm.
you know, that's might be more possible to be in the moment with you as
Yeah.
opposed to going and looking at years
Yeah. No,
of
I think to a large extent
creation.
that's true. You know, like the personal connection, like, you know, that immediacy. It doesn't help that I'm like, you know, looking through the woods here as I'm walking, you know, rather than
Well,
just kind of being with
I've
you.
I've been in the
But
woods, and
I guess, yeah, it does help to some extent.
I can kind of imagine being there with you.
Yeah,
And you might even be able to imagine Jesus being there with you, walking around with
yeah,
you right now. I found that really helpful recently. I had some kind of a attack. I've gone almost a year, like just cruising through in my monastery, and it's as soon as I decided to hop back into the internet community, end up with these dreams. I'm getting attacked in my dreams, and
mm,
but what I found, and there was a sermon that happened that seemed to quote like CW apropos, relevant, and but yeah, just imagining, trying to like see the face of Jesus and keep Jesus with you, uh, is really helpful. Like
yeah,
in the face of some spiritual attack. And so I'm a
true.
little bit nervous about a soccer game that's going to happen today. I'm a coach on a soccer team. What's
Nice.
interesting is the spirit of wanting to win
Mm-hmm.
in recreational sports. That's what I've been. So it's like I've been bumping up against that spirit. Because I'll have I have a large team, and I'm trying to let everyone have playtime, but I'm in a league where nobody else is doing that. So that's what I've been wrestling with.
Yeah. It's a struggle, man. Are you a competitive person by nature?
Oh, I've been wanting to win my entire life.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make Jesus my king, and it seems to work. I'm trying to love the kids who maybe aren't the best on the team, and I maybe want to let them play,
Yeah.
and
Playing the
instead of
scrubs.
yeah, we're playing 40 minutes like soccer games, and there's these kids that they paid to play. This is recreational league. This isn't like there's a bunch of other ways to play. Yeah, there's club, there's varsity in high school, there's all stars, there's professional, there's all kinds of ways to play, but this is recreational sports, and
Yeah.
it's like I'm trying to love these kids. So
Coaching kids is it's such an experience, because then you're dealing with parents too and all those dynamics, and like, why isn't my kid playing more? Because he's unathletic and he sucks.
These things are important. Going out into your community and just trying to serve the King is a good thing.
Absolutely.
I couldn't not say hi to Gavin, and
Bob.
when he talked about his youth soccer team, and I just thought, oh, this is the most real thing on the stream this morning. Not to say anything against anyone else. I mean, I've been trolling all morning.
Virtual communication.
Gavin, that is absolutely the Lord's work, and because it's so hard, because all those little kids, they want to win too. They want to win so bad, and it's like, why won't the coach help us win? It's because I want you all to play. I want you.
It's the parents, it's the other coaches, there's just so much spirit there. And so I'm a little bit nervous about a soccer game that's going to happen today, because I'm trying to do good, and there are so many spirits and interests that compete with each other. And maybe I can coach from the sideline and have Jesus next to me, as I'm coaching, and that might help me. I know it will, if I can remember to do that. If I can remember Jesus.
Yeah. And it's crazy when you think that like lots of people don't even kind of just kind of wash over them, but because if you live in like a world with no spirits, then it's like this person is just acting, but if you're able to see like there's kind of higher patterns playing through this person, it helps to disengage them. We fight against the spirits, not the person. The person is an image of God, and it's like if we can remember that, like you said, that really helps, I think. There was something else I had in my mind there, but I'm kind of I get bustling and lose my train of thought. really
It was,
wonderful, wonderful day.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes
interesting. Yeah,
it's nice to be able to just pause and take it in,
yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Hopefully, I kind of answer your question. The I kind of yeah, it's kind of the main one. Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, you kind of heard my thinking about it. You know, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I hear. Let me try to put it back out there and potentially risk making a fool of myself. But that's the only way to do it. Is I got the sense that yeah, there's a lack of trust in the technology itself that it could actually work. It might actually, and as a trust, there's a lack of trust in those who would build and maintain it. There's a lack of trust in, and there's a concern about perhaps losing something that we already have in us. That is kind of like maybe using a calculator and then your math skills get worse, for example.
yeah, kind of. Yeah.
There's, yeah, those are the ones that come to mind first for why the idea of a device or technology like I'm wanting would be uh, should be concerning and should we should these are things we should be careful about.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. You don't have to I had a couple days or I think even a week or more to think about this. And again, I appreciate you asking. Um, yeah, and I think this is a very productive and interesting conversation. I mean, because for all I know, there might be something, a role to be played in what you're saying. You know, um, yeah, despite my emotional um predispositions or something.
Well,
Yeah.
it might, I mean, it might be nice to start finding the people who, like Joe Rogan, who'd say, come on, come on and get in there. And it'd be nice to find those people and get them. I don't know. I don't know. I would like to be able to connect with people like that who say, come on in.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to let you in my mind, you know? Um, I
Hmm.
think a community of people like that um, could end up doing some amazing things in the world.
Hmm.
That's kind of my hope.
Yeah.
I don't
I mean,
necessarily
that's
good at it.
that's
I
kind
don't. Yeah, go ahead.
of that's kind of what we do in TLC, to some extent. It also reminds me of Twitter, where everyone's just like, "This is what's in my mind," but obviously that's different from really seeking the real connection. I don't know. I think in religious and
I mean,
you know,
if I started naming names, they would come off as accusations, but there and I should best point at myself. There are things that, um, let's see, yeah, worry. It causes concern that uh, there are scary people in the world, and I think that if I were to wear a mind reading instrument, I would want to do it at the right time and for a limited period of time, honestly, personally.
mhm.
So because I have an awareness of minds that are dangerous and scary. But I'd be willing to do it as a grand experiment just to show the world what happens when people do it. Um, yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I feel like it would be a powerful experiment for people to just have like a radical a kind of radical transparency. And I don't necessarily know that it needs to happen on the internet. Like, I think
Yeah.
that, for example, if I were to talk to a Joe Rogan and we were just having open minds together, I don't know that that needs to be shared with the entire world, right?
I mean, I think that can already happen to such a greater extent than most people realize. Like I've had, that's kind of what catalyzed my whole uh spiritual intellectual journey, was like this radical moment of encountering my roommate, and also like, myself, and at college. And I think those doors can really swing way wide open, than we think. But we're so like conditioned in our modern time to not um aim at those type of things, and to not focus on those type of things. Like if we really dial in and focus on, what's going on in the mind of Gavin right now, and you're thinking about what's going on in the mind of Jonathan, like I think we could, even through the internet, I think we can, achieve some interesting, some really far out states, and um,
All right. Well, I
yeah,
mean, I want to do work. Uh, I want to, I want to, yeah, I'm interested in selling off all the property and working as a community that collaborates.
that sounds cool. I like those types of ideas.
But well, like the thing is, there's I've tried to mention the idea to a few people who like are married and have children, and I'm like, try. I encourage you to think about this um and try to convince your wife. First,
About
I would
the
have to convince you, and then I
about
would have
the
to see you
device.
convince your wife. Well, about the selling off everything you have and joining with a
Okay,
community of
yeah,
people.
about like aiming at the right type of things. It's hard to
Um,
convince people to aim at the right type of things, especially with like, I really think, like you said, it's kind of those direct experiences of it that really change people,
I'll
you know.
I'll frame it up with Paul Vanderklay. He's got his church, and get he can't get a young married couple with kids to come to his church.
Mhm.
And I've heard him tell the story. It's like why would a mother want to bring her family into his church when there's some person over there that's scary, right?
Mhm.
So there's challenges. The mind, the perspective of a mother, the perspective of a parent. There's risks, there's security, there's fears. There's like once you really start saying, "Hey, let's let's create a community," um, it gets challenging.
Mhm.
It's like with um, so like for example, if you and I were to start a community together, okay, well, how are you and my how's my wife going to learn to trust you? And what if you know somebody that I don't know? It's like how are me and my wife going to learn to trust the person that we've never met that you want to live with, right?
Mhm.
And so the goal of the idea and the maybe it's a thought experiment of coming together as a community where you are neighbors, like actual neighbors, where you'll go and knock on each other's doors, assuming that's the manners that we live by. Some people live
Mhm.
by manners like come on in, no locked doors.
Mhm.
But if you actually go through that thought experiment, that's when things start to get real. Like it's like, okay, like my might start getting a little nervous. I say, hey, we've got this
Mhm.
property, we can sell it, we can go in and buy some land with people, and we can start doing good work together. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, this is a little scary
Mhm.
because nobody, this is not what people do. Uh,
Mhm. It's reminded me of did you see Matthew Peugeot's recent talk?
I
He
haven't.
um he was talking about like the role of the feminine, like the symbolism of dreaming and sleep and stuff. He's gonna, how he did the language of creation. He's gonna I don't know if do you know about that? It's
Uh, I've
okay,
I've
so that's
interacted with him like once or twice on Twitter when I was there, but
got you. Yeah, John Fisher's brother did the symbolism book, and that's kind of where John Fisher gets a lot of his inspiration. And and he's coming out with another one, which is going to be called The Language of Renewal, which is about like the role of the feminine. And he was talking about how like dreams are esoteric and stuff because it's like it's not nobody else. Like there's a certain, I think there's a certain orderliness to like the way in which the veiled is unveiled, you know, and it's um, like if like, and there's a certain importance that like not that your dreams are just for you, and perhaps, uh, and then this idea that like maybe there are, you know, like there is a role for things that are hidden, or like maybe there are, you know, reasons beyond our comprehension that like you know, like if all of God's truth was just like laid bare for us, it would be like blinding. And like, you know, I think there's a place for that, you know, like blinding people with truth and stuff, you know, but I think there is like kind of order that, you know, kind of respect for the veiled. um you know, not to say you don't have that respect, but that's just coming to mind here in terms of like those type, because it really is interesting how like some societies, you know, will just be totally open with all their stuff, you know, and things like that. But even still, there's always,
a nudist colony compared
yeah.
with a community of
I
people
mean, that's
who
pretty
like
getting close, you know, because
who,
as
who
somebody, yeah,
shroud their entire bodies, you know.
yeah, very much so, yeah.
The covering of the female body has gone on in Islam longer than anywhere else, and the female power controlling men oftentimes. Oh yeah, I influence people all the time with my, you know, in subtle ways. And there's something so intense about covering the body of the woman, because you're cutting that actually gets rid of feminine power.
Yeah. But even still, like there's always going to be kind of those you know, those experiences that are just you know, like the subtle nuances of someone's dream. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine all kinds of communities. I mean, it's interesting. Like I was reading 12 Rules for Life, and Peterson talks about, he likes to look at the garden, and he likes to talk about how Adam and Eve had their shame as God walks through the garden, and then he wants to say that every child who were to get dropped off naked in front of a group of people is going to feel shame. And I'm just like, he's not thinking about the nudist colonies. You know,
Yeah, and there's also some kids that like yeah, some kids just don't care at all, you know.
it depends on your
Yeah.
environmental conditioning.
Yeah.
I mean, there is such thing as personalities, but environmental conditioning is really powerful.
Yeah. 100%. Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting stuff. Maybe we'll have to like do a you know, a continuation of this, you know, because I don't know, we'll see what percolates in the
It's
minds.
connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
I want to be able to go out and just say, "Here I am. Where are my people?" And it's just build a community. That's what I'd love to be able to do. I'd love to have, for example, God, a God that loves us, be able to say, all of you people here, y'all are going to do great things. You need to live together. You know.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely think we should be paying more attention to those types of things, you know, in general, like as a society, like kind of these more localism oriented things. And I also think that like you know, that's ideally what, you know, like religious bodies should be, is that, you know, people coming together trying to commune, you know, like as deeply as possible in a way such that it literally images forth the communion that is like the love at the ground of being. um and then, you know, to like have that change us. um yeah, but a lot of times, yeah, I don't know, a lot of times it doesn't go like that, but a lot of times it also does, you know.
Well, I'll throw out. I think I heard Neil say something about, uh, you know, trying to change the arena versus allowing the arena to change you. I think is an important thought. Like, I don't know if that begs an answer, but I'm at the soccer fields last night, and there's at least two people that come to mind that I felt pulled toward, right, out of hundreds. And so, there's probably opportunities where we're at, and that we might get better at listening to, listening to the direction from, the good God, the greatest God. And, it's,
Yeah.
so I think it's a both. Like, we can do it wherever we're at, and we can also be trying to, consider ways to make it better as well. But
and stuff like
who am I? I need to just do
well,
God's will. Is
and
what I
stuff
really
like
want to do.
communities, and like you were saying, like the communities that kind of have that intention. I like that idea.
Well, we can practice that where we're at, but
Yeah, 100%.
it's
Yeah.
practice though. It's like and I've been practicing, and
Yeah.
it'd be much easier if I could just have the great God just telling me exactly what to do. It's like, hey, you need to go over there and say that. Okay, I'll do it. But
Yeah.
I don't have that. I don't. It's very rare for people to have that kind of guidance. So
I don't know if it's just kind of a contrarian note rising up in my chord progression here, but
I love contrarians.
it's reminding me of how with stuff like synchronicity, I get the impression that God is always telling you exactly what you need to hear, but we just kind of can't hear it, which is still the same dilemma, that we struggle with guidance, but it's maybe a different way of framing it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You are God, I'm God, everybody is God. And we are all telling each other exactly what we need to hear. Or something like that.
I know there's people who would not like those words. But
Yeah.
I think there's a
Me
way of
too.
hearing those words that are good. So
Yeah.
there's a way of hearing it where people say, "Hello." And
Yeah.
there's a way of hearing it where people say, "Amen."
Yeah. And there's a way of saying it too, because people say, I am God. That is the end of the story. It's about, it's we have to have respect for these crazy truths, that the ground of being works through both of us. It's crazy. But yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little bit bedazzled by this. I don't know, all these thoughts. It's really nice talking to you. Is there anything that else that's kind of been on your mind recently? I'm kind of, I don't know, thinking maybe we could.
Yeah, let me see if my wife responded to me. Let's see what she said.
I'm in no particular rush. I keep getting the
I
impression. Okay.
I texted her and said, what time are we leaving? No later than when. And so it's 6 minutes from now is whenever I need to be leaving. So
Heard that. Where are you headed?
well, my daughter is going to piano lessons, and I'm going to ride along. So I'll
Nice.
bring my laptop and my internet connection and ride along.
Cool.
I love working remotely. I would love to be able to. One of the dreams I had a decade ago is that remote workers would be able to go and like build communities, in my language now I'd call it like plant a church, and you could go in and you build up the infrastructure for a community, and then and once it's there, maybe I don't know, 3-5 years, you pick up and do it again, and you just keep
This
on
would be like
planting these things.
would these be like the communities of people at the same company or like different companies? Because that's like kind of what they do at the.
It could be
Those
different
crazy.
companies.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
it doesn't
interesting.
have to be the same company. I called it Ecclesia Club.
Nice.
And
It
so,
reminds me of, I still think there might be something very well going on with the whole CHE thing.
Karen Wong introduced me to a guy named Jason Delport, and
Mhm.
Jason Delport had been given these the idea of this giant structure in a desert that can extract moisture out of the air and essentially create rivers, and it could provide clean water for like 80,000 people or something. It's this huge thing, and I've worked with him like almost every Friday for two years. He lives in Tasmania, and
this idea of like, making these, more, I don't know, more well-ordered cities and stuff or something like that. It's interesting because it comes to mind because I remember one time you saying that like you could build one and then just leave it and make another one and stuff.
No, but like you might even hand it to them and say, hey, you want it? We'll go build another one. Let's see how good you can do this thing. We'll just go build another one. You want it? All right, we submit. We'll go build another one because you think you got it. We'll see if you can run this thing. We'll just go build another one.
Get back to the now, Gavin.
Well, I think that we can practice. Honestly, I think we could try to like make sure everyone has clean water, fruits and veggies, everyone on Earth, before we even build the first CHE. But and maybe it's not before we build the first CHE, but there's things we can be doing. The CHE seems like it seems like it will be a good thing, and I don't know when it will happen, and I think it will happen. But there's a lot of other good things we can do as well.
Has he done any like small scale like tests and stuff?
Yeah, he's done. Like he proved out the physics with different experiments. Like he took a totally encapsulated, insulated box with a thermometer in it, and he put in his truck, and he went way up this mountain, and so he was able to measure that this kind of vacuum sealed box, the temperature dropped as he went up the mountain. And so this is the key thing that allows for the air to cool in a desert, where you could potentially even create, in the middle of a hot desert, you could create you could even start having to worry about ice, because you're able to cool the air so much. I mean, and this is a guy who studied engineering and was an engineer, and then became an HVAC mechanic. And so like even his life story, it seems to map onto, it's like it would have been hard for any other person to come across the thought, the idea. So it's very important for Jason, and I want to encourage him. And I even mentioned it. I got to meet a pastor yesterday, and I shared a link to it.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm with you in the respect that like I think people, because at least it's not to say that I necessarily like think he's totally, on the, that everything he says is 100% correct and stuff, but it's like, why not discuss these types of, I don't know, it's like people like to write off these sorts of, because he's presenting it, for anyone who doesn't know, it's kind of this.
It's a mega project.
He maps it to like the body of Christ, right? Like in the New Jerusalem and such, is like the proportions and the types of materials and stuff. Like people tend to write stuff off like that, but
I like and I'll have to go soon, but I heard it that Sam Tiedemann, he's a Unitarian, not a Trinitarian, and I heard Michael Sartori, basically, he said he had to defend Sam Tiedemann. He said, if you're going to do sola scriptura, you have to understand that there's going to be different interpretations, right?
We must realize the necessity of not being satisfied with one standpoint only. We must train ourselves in this in order to escape confusion. We can only do so by accustoming ourselves in the physical world to realize that salvation is not achieved by contemplating any matter from one standpoint only. There are people who are materialists, others are spiritists, others monists, others dualists, and so forth. The materialists insist that everything is matter. The spiritists assert that everything is spirit, and attribute importance to spirit alone. The monists declare that everything proceeds from unity. People fight and wrangle with each other on every possible occasion. The materialists against the spiritists, the monists against the dualists, and so on. But everyone who wants to prepare himself for real knowledge must pay heed to the following facts. Materialism has a certain justification. We must learn how to think as the materialist does. in terms of the laws of matter, but this thinking must be applied to the material world only. We must comprehend these laws, for otherwise we cannot find our bearings in the material world. If someone were to attempt to explain a clock by saying, quote, "I believe there are two little demons sitting inside it and making the hands go round. I do not believe in machinery," close quote, such a man would be laughed to scorn. For a clock can be explained only by applying the laws of the material world. Those who try to explain the movements of the stars by material laws are simply telling us of a mechanical system. The mistake does not lie in materialistic thinking itself, but in the supposition that it can explain the whole universe, and that there is no other valid kind of thinking. It can therefore be said that materialistic thinking has its justification, but in a certain domain only. Spiritual thinking must be applied to whatever is subject to the laws of spirituality, and not to those of mechanics. As little as the clock can be explained by demons, as little can thinking be explained by movements of atoms in the brain. Again, anyone who attributes fatigue in the evening to the accumulation of toxins may be giving the right explanation as far as the outer facts are concerned. But as far as the soul is concerned, he is explaining nothing whatever, for a spiritual explanation is essential there. Philosophers whose only aim is to arrive at unity have in the end gained nothing at all. Such thinking must be widened through proceeding from very different points and finally reaching unity. By adopting different standpoints, we can educate ourselves to view things from many angles, a faculty that is so necessary for experiences in the higher worlds. We should spare no efforts to prepare ourselves to view the ego from 12 standpoints. But there is little understanding today for such a degree of objectivity. Anyone who has attempted to achieve it will be able to tell of the remarkable reaction in the world when anyone sets aside his personal point of view and surrenders himself to the views held by another. This power of emerging from oneself in order to describe something objectively, as it were with the eyes of a different viewpoint, is a quality that it is necessary to acquire, for that alone can lead to far-reaching truth. Nobody gets anywhere near the real truth if he stands at a particular spot and gazes, let us say, at a rose bush, but only if he photographs it now from one standpoint, now from another, and again from another. By such means we train ourselves to acquire what we need as soon as we rise into the higher worlds. Confusion is inevitable in the higher worlds if we enter them with personal opinions, for then we immediately have delusive images of truth before us.
You have to understand that there can be different interpretations, right? You can't take sola scriptura seriously and then cling to your one interpretation. And so, Jason's got a lot of interpretations that map onto the CHE. So it's out there and it's strange and different than what everyone else is doing and their interpretations, but he's got some interesting interpretations that I can see how he sees it.
Yeah, and even aside from that, just like this idea at like an engineering level, like people would probably, I don't know, it's like if it were bunk, then like some good conversations would disprove it, And
well, I mean, yeah, we can try to disprove it, but
I don't really have a dog in the fight particularly, but but I'm definitely about encouraging the conversation,
We've got $1,000 prize for anyone who can disprove it. So
cool. Money's out there, y'all.
Link in the description.
Yeah, I'll put it there.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. I do need to go. Need to go be a dad and a husband.
Yeah. Props to you for doing it. You too, man.
Bye.
Talk to you.